Well, hi everybody. It's meteorologist Joe Chaffee here on this Friday night, the 26th of October, 2018, 9:05 Eastern Time. And, well, the plan was to have the Joe and Joe weather show. However, because of the storm situation that we've had, the schedules have been kind of moved around. So, actually, Joe will be on Saturday morning on Fios 1 News. And I'm here soloing tonight, so it's going to be a Joe and Joe show with only one Joe. All right, so we've got a lot going on tonight with respect to what to expect with this weather system that is coming up. And we are going to see some rather stormy conditions tomorrow morning, particularly for the Jersey Shore, Monmouth, and Ocean counties, and probably at points further south as well. Also for Long Island, and maybe back to about New York City and parts of Westchester County in terms of the wind. I think we're going to see some wind gusts up to and over 50 miles an hour. Might even see an odd gust or two at 60 over the east end of Long Island. You know, it's not that we have a really intense storm so much in terms of the low and in terms of how low the pressure is. It really isn't that low, but the pressure gradient is extremely tight. We have a strong high that's going to be sitting over Nova Scotia and a low that will probably find itself somewhere along the New Jersey coast. And that pressure gradient, rather large change in pressure over a relatively short distance. And those isobars, those lines of equal pressure, they get pinched pretty much right over us. So I'm looking for about a 6-hour period of rocky weather from say 4 or 5 a.m. till about 10 or 11 a.m. On Saturday. I've been kind of shifting the hour back and forth depending on what's going on with some of the models, but it looks like that's a pretty good time frame to expect the worst of it. And as you go further north and west, I think you're going to participate in the rain, which is generally going to be on the order of 1 to 2 inches with some higher amounts in some places. So there are some flash flood warning watches that are up for southern areas of the Hudson Valley, New York City, the eastern half of New Jersey. So basically draw a line north to south in the state. It's the eastern counties that have the flash flood watch. The western counties do not. Long Island has a flash flood watch. So does the southern part of Connecticut. We've got a high wind warning up for eastern Long Island and wind advisories everywhere else. Wind advisories around New York City, Westchester, southern Connecticut, in northeastern New Jersey, from Bergen down to Middlesex County. And then we're talking about high wind warnings up for Monmouth and Ocean counties. So you can see the radar off to my left is rather busy, starting to get busy with rain now moving into southern New Jersey. This is the Mount Holly radar. And look for the rain to be on the doorstep of New York City by about 11 o'clock or shortly after that, and then into Long Island probably around or just after midnight. And the same holds true for the Hudson Valley. So we are watching this rather large area of rain. It covers a lot of ground here. Taking a look at it on the U.S. radar view, and you can see it's raining pretty solidly throughout much of Virginia, the eastern half of North Carolina. There are embedded patches of heavier rain, and we also have some rains going back into western PA and into Ohio and Indiana. All of this lifting up to the northeast. So again, I think the rockiest part is going to be probably from about 4 a.m. or so to 11 a.m. noontime, and then things are going to get a bit better. So when we take a look, you know what, when we start off with, why don't we start off with the HRRR model, because that's the ultra short range model, and we'll look at the last full run. This only goes out about 18 hours worth, and I think we can do well by getting very tight on it. And now we can already see, by the way, because this is what it was supposed to look like at 9 o'clock tonight from the world of the HRRR, and the radar is already showing rain up into southern New Jersey, so it seems to be coming in a little faster than even this super short range model shows. You get that heavier rain tomorrow morning, gets a little blotchy and then comes back in. See how that low just kind of takes its time. We're at 1 o'clock in the afternoon here with a low center that is sitting just east of Atlantic City. The gradient in South Jersey at this point is relaxing, but it's still fairly tight from New York City north and east. And yes, that is snow that you're seeing and sleet in the higher elevations of the Catskills down to Sullivan and western Ulster County, by the way. So we actually do have winter weather advisories up for that area for the potential for up to a couple of inches of snow and sleet, mainly above 1,500 to 2,000 feet. Any of the snow that happens this weekend from this system in upstate New York and in parts of central and northern New England, that's all going to be elevation driven. So just from the standpoint of the model view on the wind, so this is at the during the overnight. We got that yellow area. That's all sustained gales. So basically 30 knots or higher, or just under gale force, 30 knots or higher, starting at about, during the night, during say 4 a.m. and then spreading to Long Island by about 5 a.m. And those red areas, those red streaks that you see, this is at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning. The red streaks, that's all 40 knot sustained winds. So even if you think that the model is overdoing it, and it is showing those strong winds over the coastal waters for sure, but even if you think the model is overdoing it, I still think it's going to be every bit of inland of 20 to 35 with gusts on up to 40 or even 50 miles an hour for Long Island and for coastal Jersey. Now, going north and west, yes, there will be gusts up into the 20s and into the 30s. I don't think you're going to see the kind of sustained winds that you're going to see down along coastal areas. And I know this is an issue, especially when it comes to power outages, of course. The one thing I would say in the areas along the coast with the fact that we've had quite a bit of rain in the last month, you have to wonder whether the threshold for trees to possibly come down in a few spots will hinge on how much moisture is in the soil, how moist the soil is already. Add some rain up to a couple of inches, and then add to that some gusty winds to 40 or 50 miles an hour. Wouldn't be surprised if you see a tree get taken down here and there. So just bear that in mind. And we're still at it tomorrow afternoon. This rainfall total is not going to be complete because we're only taking this to 1 o'clock. But at least through 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we're seeing every bit of 1 to 2 inches. And even in the whitish areas, that's 2, 2.25, 2.5 inches, streaking parts of coastal New Jersey and eastern Long Island. I want to take a look at the NAM model, because we can go out a little further with this. And, the rainfall is certainly generous enough. The wind situation with the NAM, see how, no, I actually haven't looked at at this version of the 3-kilometer NAM, but you can see how aggressive it is with the wind area here for tomorrow morning, with those sustained winds of 40 knots or higher along the New Jersey shore, and kind of embracing the south shore of Long Island, and then coming around toward the North Fork and into Long Island Sound. That starts to slowly diminish during the afternoon. Still getting some gusty winds tomorrow evening. Once the low lifts northeastward Saturday night, weather conditions are going to improve relatively quickly. The rain's going to stop. The clouds may not get out of the way, but the rains are going to stop. I'm certain of that. And we should have some pretty decent weather here overall on Sunday, certainly compared to Saturday. I'm not really anticipating anything on Sunday as far as rain is concerned. I think it's just going to be, cloudy with some brightening of skies or a break or two of sun, and then weather conditions will deteriorate again Sunday night. We've got this weak weather system coming through. Looks like it'll bring through a few showers here early Monday morning around daybreak, and then that moves out to the east, and then finally a couple of dry days to look ahead to. Next week, just really quick, we do have a dying weather front that comes through Tuesday night. Really doesn't do very much. You can barely find a shower with it. Halloween looks okay. Not too bad. I'm thinking some sun and clouds, reasonable temperatures. we'll get a stronger front through here late next week, and then that front is going to try and stall, and depends on whether a wave develops on that front and moves on up to the northeast. I want to also just really fast. People are asking about the winter, and talking about snow cover growth. That was that first map. You might have caught a glimpse of it before I switched it, but up until now, the snow cover growth in Eurasia, in Siberia, and over in Eastern Europe has been very subpar. Well, the GFS back several days ago, or even longer than that, showed a rather robust 10-day snowfall, and that continues now on this current run into the first days of the month of November. But one of the things that has happened, I did see a tweet from Dr. Judah Cohen, who we've had on as a guest back earlier in this month, and he talked about Siberian snow cover growth. It has been running very subpar, one of the lowest growth rates seen in the last 13 or 14 years. However, in the last number of days, if you follow the black line, the line with the black dots, that is this current year, and you can see how it's been running at the bottom or near the bottom of the range of snow cover growth going back to 2009. Well, it has suddenly taken this big spike upward in the last 2 days, and probably again today. So if the GFS is correct, we stand the possibility of finishing more toward the upper end. And the idea goes that if Siberian snow cover growth is robust in the month of October, Dr. Judah Cohen's work suggests that there's a link to winters in the east, and that they're colder than normal and snowier than normal. Now, that hasn't played perfectly in the last 14 or 15 years. It's worked most of the time. In fact, it ran a streak where it worked every year, and then everybody started paying attention to it back about 3 years ago. And once everybody started paying attention to the indicator, all of a sudden it stopped working. So that's why you got to be careful in the world of weather, because oftentimes you think you have it all figured out, and something comes along to just kind of throw a monkey wrench into the equation. So it's just one of many factors that weather people are going to be looking at going forward with regards to the winter time. All right, I got a few minutes, so we can at least take a few questions here. By the way, I just want to mention, for those of you who haven't seen it, I do have a new platform on Patreon where I'm doing additional coverage of weather. You get the website posts. You get exclusive videos just for Patreon members. You can message me anytime for a timely response, and I think it's going to come in pretty handy during the winter time. Just about everyone that's been on it has given me very good feedback. So I'm putting a link up on the chat, and give it a look. It's it is a subscription site, but it's just the cost of a cup of coffee really per month. And if you're a weather person, you might like it. So give it a chance. Robert Woods going to the Poconos tomorrow. If you're going up elevation wise in the Poconos, I don't think so. It's going to be more in the Catskills than in the Poconos, but you will experience a cold rain. William Sheff, heavy rain during the morning hours around daybreak and afterward for Monmouth County, gusts to 40, 50 miles an hour right along the coast. It may actually be pretty gusty all the way back west to the Garden State Parkway. No, William Huber, I do not have the new NAM. The new NAM doesn't start until 10 o'clock because we're on daylight time. But once we get back to standard time, and Joe and I mentioned this the other night, we'll be able to live stream the new NAM model as it's coming out during this show, which we did last winter during some of the snowstorms. So this way we get to see that model before Joe and I do our last weathercasts. That's one of the many reasons why we don't like daylight saving time, because of the fact that it sets the models back an hour later. So it kind of puts us at a bit of a disadvantage. And by the way, you know, another reason why it puts us at an advantage too is because we actually take the time to look at it, because I do know that there are a lot of weather people that don't look before they go on. I knew that was the case for years. Maybe it's less so now, but Joe and I always look, and I certainly, you know, I'm there watching it come out line by line. So it'll be good because we'll be able to do it while we're on the air. Weather wasn't half bad today, Jimmy Zindel, although it did cloud up. There were thin spots around, and temperatures did have a tough time getting out of the 40s in a lot of places, and they're not going anywhere tonight. Very, very raw out there. Thanks, Michael Russell. I really appreciate it. You're on the Patreon platform, and you like it. That's great. And you know, we're going to be doing more and more with that in the coming weeks. Just as you know, I'm still trying to get settled with it, but we are going to be doing more and more. Ryan Ford, there's enough cold air aloft. I can tell you right now, the answer is no. Okay, there isn't enough cold air aloft to the point where we could have heavier precip rates and changing it over to wet snow. Not happening. Too early, and it's not cold enough. That's going to happen up in parts of upstate New York. It's going to happen up in the northern Berkshires and on up into western Mass and on Vermont, New Hampshire, parts of Vermont, New Hampshire, and northeastern New York. Again, elevation driven. And by the way, don't be surprised if at some point during all of this, if you hear about some unusual snow amounts in some of those elevated areas up in upstate New York. This is the kind of, or in interior New England, because this is the kind of situation where you could see that happen with that colder high that's to the north kind of wedged in. Joe Alloy, nice to see you. Welcome as always. I got to stop. You know, I got to come and see you and talk to you one of these days. Ryan, we talked your question there. Central Jersey, Michael Russell at 5 o'clock, dry. Good question. You know, it's going to be close, the southern edge of this. The problem is on Saturday afternoon that the rain south of New York City is going to become more showery in nature. So I think you stand a chance of it, the bulk of it being over with. If not at 5 o'clock, hopefully shortly after that. The heaviest winds after 5 a.m., Junior. That is correct. Jeanette Myers. Oh, she's talking to Mark Hatfield. Morris County. I guess somebody must have had a question about Morris County. I missed it. So whoever it was, repeat it, and I will try and get to it. Dennis Cassius, stop. It's too early for thunder snow. And besides, last night Joe cracked a boom pretending to be a thunderstorm, and he forgot to turn his head in the other direction, and I think I'm still reverberating from that. Already snow on the ground in the mountains in upstate New York where Timothy Veltman is. Yeah, you know what? You're probably going to wind up. You're going to wind up seeing some. Okay, Joe, I will do that. I'm going to be away next week, but when I get back, okay, definitely will do that. Trying to see if there's anything else anybody would like to ask, because I'm going to sign out a little early tonight. Usually we run it up to about 9:50, but since I got started a little earlier, I think I'm going to end it a little bit earlier. Oh, we got 2 new comments. Let's see what they are. Oh, I got to thank you for Michael Russell. I really appreciate your kind words about it, about the Patreon platform. And Lauren Michelle says, hi from Patchogue, Bergen County, heavy rain. What time? Okay, probably rains are going to be coming in during the early morning hours. Figure the heaviest rain will be between 4 a.m. and noon, somewhere, you know, inside that time frame, and maybe get a little more showery after that. Robert Migliori, I hate to say so, you're excited about our first Noreaster. This is actually a little bit unorthodox in the fact that the actual low itself is not very intense at all. It's really the high to the north that's doing this. The high is strong, and it's also holding a lot longer than what was initially modeled. So the pressure gradient, those isobars are getting pinched very, very tightly, literally right over us, and that's what's causing this. The lowest pressure on it is just under 1,000 millibars, which is really not all that low, and you've got the high, which is about a 1030, which isn't half bad strength-wise, but it's also the distance. That high is sitting in southwest Nova Scotia. The low's off the New Jersey coast. That's not a whole lot of miles to have a 32 millibar change in pressure. Those are, you know, just there are 8 isobars between that high and that low, and about 6 of those isobars are squeezed between Boston and southern New Jersey. So that's why we're going to see some really, really strong winds. And yeah, in the coastal areas, Lauren, Michelle, you could certainly see gusts of 40 to 50 miles an hour, and maybe even some odd gusts to 60. I think the best chance for that would be as you go east of you toward, say, east of, let's draw a line at just east of the William Floyd Parkway. So from there east, I think you probably stand a better chance of seeing gusts of 50 or even higher. Teresa Leona, hello. I talked to Michael today. Always good to see you on board. And give a big hug to your grandchildren, your granddaughters. No worries, Lauren, Michelle, anytime. And Ali Fadil, have you put up your winter forecast yet? You know, you've been viewed as being the ultimate contrarian, so I'm sure everybody's waiting to hear what you're going to say. I'm busting your chops, right? Okay. Mark Hatfield, wind and rain for. I don't even know exactly where Denville is. What county are you in? I forgot. I used to have all these things pretty much at the top of my head. And Morris County. Well, it's going to get gusty up your way, but I don't think you're going to see anything too crazy. Gusts in the 30s. Maybe pushing 40 miles an hour, not out of the question, but I don't think that that's going to be enough to cause any big problems. You're certainly not going to get into the bigger wind that's going to be occurring down along the New Jersey shore in coastal Monmouth and coastal Ocean County. Okay, by the way, let me let you know right now that on Wednesday, November 7th, the day after Election Day, speaking of New Jersey, Wednesday, November 7th at 7 o'clock, I will be at the new Bayonne Library in Bayonne, New Jersey. So I will have more information on that in the coming days. But mark that down if you're in New Jersey. I was at the Springfield Library last week, and now I'm going to be at the new Bayonne Library in Bayonne, New Jersey on Wednesday, November 7th at 7 o'clock, and I believe that is they're opening it up right around that time. So I may wind up being the debut program on that particular day. So come on out. We're going to talk about the upcoming winter. If by chance the system out in the Atlantic is an issue, that would be Tropical Storm Oscar, which there's a chance we could have by the time the weekend is over. We'll have an opportunity maybe to discuss that in its post-mortem by the time we get to November 7th. So come on out. It'll be wonderful. Once again, there'll be additional coverage on my Patreon platform, and also, by the way, we have submitted to Google and Apple. My new app will be coming out hopefully in the next couple of weeks, maybe less. Google, I understand their approval rates are pretty quick. Apple, I understand, takes a little bit longer. So if you're on an Android, you may get to see the app first. And I'll let you know more details about that. But as soon as it comes out, we will have the debut here on Facebook, and we'll open it up to everybody. So just keep an eye on that. And in the meantime, as I said, check out Patreon. And I've got website posts up at meteorologistjoechaffee.com. You can also check out Weather Long Island. My colleague Jeff Banson's been giving me a hand on that. That's weatherlongisland.com. And for New York City, of course, you've got Angry Ben, my pal Ben Scott, and he's at nycweathernow.com. And of course, do turn in tomorrow, Saturday morning, Fios 1 News. We've got Andrew Pinheiro and Joe Rayo will be on covering things during the morning hours. And then tomorrow, late in the day, as things start to wind down, Addison Green is in for Jonathan Cubitt. And he will be on to wind this storm down for you and set you up for what we hope will be a better Sunday. So have a great evening, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight, and we will see you at some point over the next couple of days.